Hello, welcome back to the channel, Retired Don't Give Up. My last video was on a monthly budget living in northern rural Thailand. One of the comments from a subscriber, well I hope he was a subscriber, was why doesn't anyone include health insurance? I replied to him and then I pinned my own comment, but it would seem this comment has sparked some interest on an apparently somewhat hot debate. So this video will be dedicated to insurance. To be or not to be? That is the question. Okay, first let's define insurance. There essentially are two kinds, health insurance and accident coverage. We'll talk about the accident later, but first, health insurance. This covers any sickness that you may incur while living in Thailand, or anywhere else for that matter. Here in Thailand, there are multitudes of companies that will provide a plan covering A to Z, and sometimes in between. Well, mostly in between, with conditions. The first condition, and really the defining one, is underlying conditions are not covered. Almost all insurance companies will require medical questionnaires and some even a medical exam. And if they don't, I might question the validity of that company. A good example is heart disease. History of heart attack or even high blood pressure will remove coverage relating to the heart. And oh, by the way, if you're in a hospital and they take your blood pressure, and they almost always do, and let's say it's 140/90 or more, well, that goes on record as you having high blood pressure and therefore at risk. Coverage denied. So let's make sure you're calm and caffeine free before they take it. Just saying. Anything else like back problems, joint replacement, diabetes, arthritis, the questionnaire is extensive. And of course, if you omit anything, well, and get caught, that's like throwing your money away, right? Other point is that once you turn 70, most companies will not insure you. Some, if you're already insured, will still cover you, but most require updated medical. Now, in my case, I check off so many boxes it just doesn't even merit filling out an application. Back in Canada last year, I tried to get insurance to go on a 3-day motorcycle trip into the States, and I was flatly denied. You just don't want to be uninsured traveling in the States. So I self-insured. We'll talk about that later, but let's first talk about costs. If you are, say, 50 and healthy as a horse, you can get a really good plan for, say, 25,000 baht a year. But only the very lucky get to retire at 50, and most of you will be 60 or more, like 65. At 60, you can get fairly reasonable coverage for 50,000, which, by the way, increases each year. Today at the coffee shop, this was the topic. Out of 4 of us, only 1 had coverage. He was 54, and he indeed paid 50,000 a year. We other 3 were all 65 with varying degrees of underlying conditions, and we all were self-insured. Now, my friend Les, from Retired and Living the Dream, he pays 25,000 baht for a year. But the total coverage is only 750,000 baht, which in my opinion is more than enough. And well, he's a healthy bugger, and so he sleeps well at night. Myself, as I have said, I have too many underlying conditions. I mean, let's face it, if I was a horse, they would have shot me a long time ago. But to name a few, both knees replaced, reconstructed ankle with brace and pins, fused L2 and L3 vertebrae, history of on again, off again type 2 diabetes, severe psoriatic arthritis, and of course, cardiomyopathy, reduced heart function, which incidentally was caused by the prescription drugs I was taking to offset the arthritis, which caused the back and knee and hand conditions. And don't get me started on dental work. Apparently, spinal problems can also affect dental health. Who knew? So you see, health insurance for me was a fading thought. So what is self-insurance? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. You pay for what comes along. In some countries, that would be downright scary thought. But here in Thailand, it's a lot more reasonable than you think. Here are two ends of the spectrum on heart issues from my group of 4 companions. Myself, when I first came back to Thailand, I had a problem with my heart. It was racing and irregular. To correct it, they put the paddles on me and stopped my heart. And then, again, to restart it back to the proper rhythm. This they classified as a heart attack. I spent a week in a government hospital in the city of Nan. They did an echocardiogram, chest x-ray, and monitored the kidneys and lung fluid. And then released me with 1 week of medicine, all for the cost of 18,000 baht. Now, I shared a ward, so no private room, but all in all, very reasonable. Now, my friend had a heart problem that was far more severe, requiring actually having to have his lungs physically drained and several visits to the hospital in Chiang Mai. His expense exceeded 130,000 baht, a considerably higher number, but not unaffordable. Imagine the same problem in the States. That number could easily be in US dollars. Also, if you're paying 50,000 a year for premiums, then you would be out twice that amount by 65. Yes, having the coverage is certainly preferable, but unfortunately not available for most. And therefore, self-insuring can sometimes be the only option. Now, along with that, an ounce of prevention can go a long way in controlling things before they become too severe. A trip to the Pray Christian Hospital for blood work, even a prostate test for 1,000 or 1,500 baht every couple of months for peace of mind. They can even speak English. X-rays for 300 baht. I get an echocardiogram for 3,000 baht. So yes, due diligence can make a difference when you self-insure. One of the guys mentioned that if he got cancer, he would immediately hightail it back to the UK. I asked, would the healthcare recognize you after living in Thailand so long? He said yes. But after talking to Les, who was also a Brit, he said, maybe not. You inform them you found out you have cancer from a doctor in Thailand, and they say, oh, how long have you been there? In Canada, you must be back in the country for 30 days before OHIP reinstates. But more important, I would think that UK is as bad as Canada for wait times. You make an appointment, which could take weeks. They do the test and wait for the results. Again, could take weeks. And then the treatment. You could lose 2, maybe even 3 months of potential life-saving treatment. Here in Thailand, treatment would happen right away. And as Les also points out, if it's terminal, why leave paradise to die in a cold room? Maybe surrounded by family, maybe not. They can come here just as easy if they want. The children of my friend Ivor, who recently passed away, couldn't be bothered to make the journey, and they had many weeks of notice that he was ill. No, I'm with Les on this one. This is where I live out my life, good or bad. Okay, let's put the morbid stuff aside and talk about accident insurance, a completely different ball of wax. Even if you're remotely active, ride a motorcycle, or even walk down the street, anything can happen. And for what it's worth, accident insurance should be a priority. Now, some don't have it in my group. One did not. My friend Pete from Discovering Thailand also did not. And I firmly believe if he did, he would still be with us today. He had coverage from his rental agreement on his motorcycle, and he spent a week in the hospital after his accident. Received broken collarbone, several broken ribs. But after the coverage ended, he was released. I'm sure with proper coverage, he would have been likely still in the hospital for several more weeks. Rest in peace, my friend. Taken way too soon. Okay, let's talk costs. It varies depending on options and, of course, companies. Before entering Thailand, I had arranged for travel and accident insurance. This was quite expensive at $299 US for 6 months. That's 9,700 baht. But the second time was even more expensive at 18,879 baht. Again, for only 6 months. Buying insurance out of the country always seems to be more expensive than buying it in country. Also, it pays to shop around. One of my group pays more than $20,000 for a year. Now, Bangkok Bank offers basic up to 3 million coverage for 5,900 baht for a year. More than reasonable. Covers accident, driving, traveling on a motorcycle, even murder and assault. For me, who rides a lot, coverage is vital. I might be able to avoid what I see coming, but it's what I don't see that can change everything. Until next time, bye for now, and remember, don't give up.